Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Wednesday, the 24th of July of 2024. So I thought today we'd talk about relationships and how you have fun with the people around you and how the day goes so much nicer if you can learn to laugh and have some fun with it. Stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back. My name is Eric, and yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Wednesday, the 24th of July. So, when I'm talking interactions, it doesn't matter whether you're having interactions with customers or if you're out and about, you know, you have extrovert and introvert, right? Where some people feel they can't say anything because they might upset somebody, so they say nothing. And trying to have a conversation with one is kind of like pulling teeth because the other person is constantly cycling through their head. Don't say it because you don't want to upset anybody. And if you're one of those people, there is help. I went through a phase where it was like a year and a half. I had suffered depression, and they called it chronic depression. And I didn't say squat to anybody. I didn't reach out to anybody. I kind of just stayed at my house with my dog and didn't say a peep because I was always worried that I might say something that might come across as offensive. You know, I was already feeling, kicked in the stomach and the gut, from having depression. So there is another side if you're there right now. Some people just don't like to have conversation with other people. But this is about enjoying the day. And I can give you an example. I started off yesterday morning. As I told you guys, I had a yearly doctor's exam. And she's great. She's a nurse practitioner. I love her. But I get there, it's supposed to be at 6:15 in the morning. And I get there, and I'm sitting and waiting, and I'm looking at my watch, and it's saying 12 minutes after, and there's still no lights on in the office, and nobody's there. All right. So by about 6:16, 6:17, a couple cars pull in, and it's the two nurses and the doctor. And they go in. So I'm like, so I walked in and I said, I was here for my 6:15 appointment, but nobody else was here. She said, well, that's the computer's fault because we can't even log in till 6:30. And I don't know why the online thing allows you to, make an appointment that early. All right. So we all got a good laugh out of that. It's like, you're taking so many precious minutes away from my time. And I got to talk with one of the nurses. It was a young gal. And she's expecting in August. And it's nice to see that. I was telling her that when my kids started having kids, that meant I was old. And I'll tell you how old I was. I was 40 years old when my first grandchild showed up. But after that, I said, bring them on. I'll take as many as I can get. And they did. And it gets costly at all the holidays, birthdays. But I had a customer call yesterday morning, once I got back to the shop. Said he had a snowblower that needed work. Okay. And I thought he said that it was urgent. So I come back with, do you know something we don't know? Like the weather forecast? And he started laughing, because I am sarcastic sometimes. And that's just the way I am. So he said, no, I said it was surging. I said, I thought you said it was urgent. But he ended up dropping the snowblower off and giving us a list of things that he wanted done on it. So where am I going with this? I'm going to a lot of companies, a lot of shops feel if I offer a good service, if I am able to fix whatever the person's problem is when it comes to lawn and garden, that's what our profession is, then I'm going to retain customers. And that's simply not true. And you can test this out in your daily life, in people that you deal with, okay? Are you more inclined to go to a dealer that you end up laughing with and you get to know each other and it's more about just the repair? It's about getting to know the owner, the mechanic, and the customer. And a lot of people can't bridge that gap. If you hire a service manager, most often the case, the only time a service manager is going to see a customer is when one's irate. So, what's the better deal? The better deal is to have a service manager that's outgoing and is talking to every customer. What do you mean every customer? I said every customer. If you have a dealership and you're bringing stuff in for whether it be warranty, keeping things up, like oil changes and that stuff, a person, the customer, will be more compelled to come back based on how they were treated. And simply doing good work and getting the job done does not automatically get you a lifetime customer. Really, nothing gets you a lifetime customer, but one that where you stick out compared to everybody else. And why that customer would want to do business with you and not anybody else. And you could be charging more than everybody else. But if a customer likes you and trusts you and has fun and feels like they're part of a bigger family, they're going to come to you. And I've heard that so much this year with my customers, when, with Terry with his lawnmower, after 10 minutes it died and stuff, he was very appreciative. And I said, we appreciate the work too. And he said, well, my lawnmower doesn't go anywhere or snowblower except here. This is where it gets touched. Because we have a relationship. And some people can't do that. They're Oscar the Grouch, rattle their garbage can and watch out. So how would you want to be treated if you were a customer? You want a level of service, right? You want a fair price. Hopefully, the shop you're going to deal with has a mechanic that can diagnose pretty quickly and is not a parts replacer. So what is a parts replacer? A parts replacer is someone that doesn't understand there's tools out there, multimeters, spark testers, compression testers. There's so many things available to use that you don't need to be swapping parts. I mean, I've seen shops that will swap out the coils because they can't get it to start, and then they'll swap out the carburetor because it still doesn't start, and they just keep adding all these parts to the customer's bill because you're not going to take them back off, right? Because then they wouldn't be new anymore. But you have to be in the customer's corner as well. You have to earn their trust. And that goes a long ways. And we have young customers to old customers. You know, we have all kinds of relationships, long term, whether it's distant relationships, you know, gender relationships, you name it, we have them all. And why is that? Because we connect. We connect on their level, and we talk to them at their level of what they would understand the best. A lot of my customers just tell me yay or nay, and they trust me when I say nay. And that's how you have to come across to every customer is, are you going to have days where customers are happy? Yeah. But there's a whole video on how to get rid of the customers that you don't want. We have one that we were talking about yesterday, and she's a slow pay normally. I'll do payments with her. Because she's a single mom. But she went out and got this lawnmower on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, and wanted us to do whatever it needed to get it so that it would run. So we did. Everything's done. But it's $504 later, and the issue I've got is that lawnmower isn't worth $500. So why'd you spend that money in to get it repaired? It's because I called her back numerous times and was adamant. You sure you want to keep going with this? Yes. But she hasn't. I dropped the mower off 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard a peep out of her. No start making payments, no nothing. And what has happened over a period of time is she's been, what's the right word? She wears out her welcome at one shop and goes to the next. Wears out her welcome at that shop, goes to the next. There's a pattern. And she's even tried getting her neighbors to work on it. And can't be, she paid him either. But over the years, she's always made an attempt and got caught up. This time, not a peep. So she's going to be on the chopping block. Because Claude doesn't want to deal with her anymore. Even though I did most of the work on her machine. This is kind of how I look at it and break it down when it comes to customers. The customers that you want and don't want. Alright? You have customer A, and all they're interested in is price. And they want it done as cheaply as possible. Well, we all do. But they don't listen to you, and when you give them the bill, even when it's very reasonable, they nitpick and want to get it down further. Well, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for that. It's part of the service. Well, I didn't need new spark plug. I didn't need, all I needed was just a change of oil and an oil filter. Fuel filter was fine. You didn't need to change that. You don't want that customer, because that customer is going to require a lot of time and finesse and they will. They'll tire you out. And a lot of people think, well, if I'm cheaper, then I'll get more customers. And that's not the case. Sometimes customers look at, if you're cheaper, that means you're not as good. And that customer is the customer you want. The one that expects quality work and doesn't complain about the bill. But if you had two bills, one for my shop, and it ended up being $220 plus tax, and you got another shop that did the same work as I did, and they charged $440 plus tax. I've seen customers think that $440 meant they got a better level of service. And that's definitely not the case. So you can't undervalue yourself to the point of having to deal with El Cheapo. But you don't want to overvalue yourself to rule out the mainstream customers that are in the middle. And they are budget conscious. They want the work done. But you've earned their trust, and they know that whatever you did had to be done. And I'll be honest with you, most of my customers, before I got them, had been burned by other dealerships. And when they came to us, and they saw that we talk in layman's terms to them, we keep them involved to the point of where they want to be involved. I have customers that want to be very much involved. And I have other ones that don't call me until it's ready. And you got the bill handy. I mean, yesterday, in the shop, and I appreciate all the comments yesterday on stuff happening, breaking down, and Jason hit a big one. For 4 years, started to break down, and actually pieces of rubber start floating to the carburetor, to the fuel filter, to wherever, and plugging it up. And a lot of times we replace the fuel lines every 3 to 4 years from the fuel tank all the way through the system. Because for what the cost is, it's a cheap fix so that your customer is not having any problems. But like the stuff that went on in the shop yesterday, I had to make one call to a gentleman named Fred. And he's got his TO, he says it's 20, but I think it's 30. In because the clutch won't disengage. He can't shift it. It's grinding. And I talked about this in a prior video we had an excessive amount of rain and flooding. And that tractor was sitting on dry land that night. But in the morning when he woke up, it was already up to above the foot pedals, and the exhaust was in the water. It had the chassis exhaust. So he put on his hip waders and he walked out to the tractor, and the tractor started, and he was able to pull it out of the water. But water has a way with metal of screwing things up, right? And his whole flywheel, the clutch was just rusted right to it. And we give him two options. He's looking at right around $1,000 to break it down, put it back together. He's looking at another 300 to go with a brand new clutch, pressure plate, throw up bearing, pilot bearing, and be done with it. And Claude explained to him, we could go another route of, trying to rough up and get this stuff cleaned up and dried out so that the rust isn't causing a lot of issues. But by the time he spends that amount of time doing that to all the pieces, it's cheaper to buy new. Because you have to watch your labor, right? But where he's going to be happy is he also has some hydraulic pump issues. And I've got a box of parts, new parts, that go for that hydraulic pump. And as I explained to Claude after he hung up, after we got off a conference call with Fred, is I said, keep track of your hours. I know normally it's $1,000 to break a tractor and put it back together without a loader on it. It's $1,500 with a loader. And let's see, hour-wise, if we can do the hydraulic pump using my parts that are spare parts that I bought years ago and get both of his issues done for the $1,300. And that will make my customer happy. Right now he's thinking $1,300 is clutch and labor bill. And he's talking maybe not doing the hydraulics. But we'll see where it goes. I ordered the clutch yesterday. Told Claude, I said, if you want, drop the hydraulic pump because it comes out the bottom. It's internal, but it's a bunch of pistons and rockers But that's one case where the customer trusts you because you're being honest with them. Some shops would have gone with doing the cleanup on it. And that's fine. But if you figured out all your time you spent with it, are you saving the customer money? Or are you just putting more money in your pocket? And maybe that's the goal of the shop, right? My goal is to do quality work at a fair, reasonable price and in the shortest amount of time. We've got a newer Ford that's sitting right next to it that I almost ordered a new hydraulic pump for it. And then it started working. A hydraulic pump doesn't work and then doesn't work. A filter could cause that. A hydraulic hose could cause that. Getting pinched off where it's not allowing the hydraulic fluid, the volume to get back on the return side. Because if you don't have it coming back on the return side, your pump doesn't have the oil to pressurize. So what I ended up doing was I went to, my go-to shop, Mesnick's. If you guys ever need to deal with Ford New Holland, Kubota, any of those, I recommend Mesnick's. They're great. Now, we're a dealer. We get dealer pricing. So, it might cost you a little bit more, but I still highly recommend them. But we ordered a hydraulic filter for that. And what I told Claude. I said, I want to drain the system, and then I want to change the filter on it. I want to put an all new hydraulic fluid and then try it and see if that makes any difference. Because if it does, it's going to save my customer almost $300. And that's why my customer knows I'm on their side. I'm going to do it as cheaply as possible, right? This customer said, just go ahead and order the pump. He thought maybe because his brother had told him that it could possibly be a seal. And talking with Claude, the seal on the hydraulic pump, if the seal was bad, it would just simply dump the hydraulic fluid into the base of the engine. So we ruled that out in a hurry. And that's what we're going to be doing sometime today, is draining that system, because we're still waiting for the filter to show up. And seeing if that takes care of the issue. I'll be surprised if it doesn't. Honestly. Because my John Deere's, I've lost hydraulics, and it's always been the filter. And with my older John Deere's, they basically, the hydraulics, the engine oil, everything on that tractor was basically 10W30 weight oil. And we made the mistake the one year, they even recalled them, the 303s that they sold at Tractor Supply, and accidentally put some into one of my John Deere's. And within an hour, it had slimed the whole system, and the filter couldn't get fluid through it. So, drain the system, new filter. I carry 3 spare hydraulic filters for my John Deere, because I know, if I start having an issue with hydraulics, that's the issue. Doesn't hurt that I got 2 spare pumps laying around too. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. But the key to today's video is, you might want to go back and rewatch, is the relationship you have with the customer. And I think the more cordial and, just down to earth relationship that you develop with your customer will get you longevity, okay? Because that customer's, if I got any problem with my lawnmower, it's going to Eric's. It's not going to Northern New York Parts. It's going to Eric's. Because my customer knows the owner, the mechanic, and the quality work put out. You can't be great at socializing and put out shoddy work. That doesn't help. That doesn't work either. Because they may like you, but if you're not fixing their problem as well, then they're going to go elsewhere. So it's a balancing act, all right? And you don't want to be so impersonal. I've gone to the dealerships and stuff like that, and you got salespeople rushing to you, hoping to sell you something, right? A new truck or what have you. But once they realize you don't need a truck, then they disappear. And if you're trying to get your vehicle in for service, you're just a number on a sheet. Let me see if I can fit you in anywhere here. 2 weeks out. I don't know the service manager's name. He doesn't know my name other than I just told him. But he's looking at what the vehicle is and what service part it needs. I think if you take that and change that so that the owner is accessible and out there where out visiting with his or her customers goes a long ways. We're all human. So don't go to the job as a daily grind. Go to the job as a way of creating new relationships that last over time. And that will make you successful. So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday. We've got to go pick up a lawnmower 45, 50 miles away this morning. And then we're going to work on some other stuff and start moving tractors from one hayfield to the next. But on that note, you guys have a great day. We'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning. And by the way, my health visit for my yearly checkup, I'm good to go for another year, so you're stuck listening to me grind on, right? All right.